Ooh, that looks tasty. Welcome, folks. Today, the Hungry Gamer is back with another crowdfunding preview, and today we're talking about Scales of Fate from IV Games. And before I get started, please note that what you're seeing here is still in the prototype phase and is subject to change. Additionally, please make sure you turn on your Klingon subtitles, because if I make any mistakes in the rules overview, that's where you'll find the corrections. Now, what this game is this is it's basically Veiled Fate Duel. It is a two-player version of the hidden role deduction game Veiled Fate. And you are manipulating kind of the fate and the fortunes of these 9 demigods here. And you're going to do that by placing them out onto the board here. And every time you place them out, something is going to happen that will eventually send their fortunes up or send their fortunes down. And at the end of the game, you're going to get most of your points by the delta between both of your 2 demigods and their score, and a few other things. And you're going to do this over the span of 3 different rounds, and each round, these tiles will change a little bit, and you'll have access to more of these. Now, with that said, if you're not interested in how this game is played, so we'll jump into my final thoughts, you want to go to the timestamp on the screen right now. For those of us still here, let's talk about how this game is played. The first thing that's going to happen is each player is going to get 2 of these cards, and in the final version there's going to be 2 of these decks so people can actually have the same demigod, but each player will get 2 of them. I'll just grab these 2 right here, assuming I have pink and orange, and I'm just going to put these over here just while I'm doing this demonstration, just so you can remember what it is that I happen to have. And then the other player would get 2 as well, and we would keep those secret. Then, whoever's going first gets to pick one of the demigods and place them out onto the board. And when you place them out, I will place them face down so you can see them a little more, something's going to happen on each of these. And this board is set up based on this card right here. And so you'll be placing them out onto the board and a different thing will happen. If you place it onto the white one here, you'll gain this white servant. And I'll talk about servants in just a moment. And I'll just put that over here. If you place one out onto the red, you'll get the red servant. If you place it out onto this green one here, you get the green servant. And again, there's this other red one over here that will sometimes be in the game, but currently it is not. If you place onto this one right here, you get to control the underworld, which means you get to take this token here and either move it up 1 or down 1. And if you look up above that, it has symbols. And I haven't talked about these symbols yet, but that's how you're going to determine what happens to anybody in the underworld at the end of the round, which is what happens when you place on this symbol. You get to smite one of the demigods. And you can take one that's not on the board and place it into the underworld like this, or you can smite somebody that is already out on the board like so. And then they would go into the underworld. And whatever choice it is that you make, they go there, and then they will be affected by this at the end of the round. You also have these 3 options down here. These are once per game god powers. So there is the switch, which you can do, which allows you to switch any 2 demigods, whether they are off the board or if they are on the board. And then it is once per game, so you would take it and flip it over, and it's going to be worth -1 point for you at the end of the game. There is the smite, which is exactly like the smite right here, which means you get to smite somebody and put them into the underworld. And there is the steal. So if this player over here were to play the steal, they could take one of my servants over to their side. Now the next thing is these tiles here and what they are going to do. So when you place the white one, you place it along an edge. Could be here, however you want to do it. And then you're going to activate all of the white tiles going in the direction that the servant is facing, in this case, this way. So I'd activate this one and this one. And what you're going to do is you're going to look at the symbol on the tile. In this case, it is a 2, and that is a positive 2. So what's going to happen is every single demigod that is connected to this tile, in this case, just the teal here, is going to go up 2. So it would go 1, 2. Then we look to the next one, and the sickle is negative, which means that orange is going to go down 1, like so. When you place the green one, you're going to do the same thing, but for all of the green tiles in the row or column. So if we place it here, orange would go down one more, and then yellow, if we see, would get to go up one, like so. Then when you place the red one, it's going to affect everybody around a single tile. So if I were to put it right here, teal's going to go down by one, and orange is going to go down by one. Then when we get to the end of the round, we will look here in the underworld and see that pink and green are both going to go down by 2, though had it been over here, pink and green would go up by 1. So we'll just go ahead and do that. Pink and green up by 1. And that's going to end the round. Then what you're going to do is both players are going to look at this right here where it says demis out of play, which means we have red and we have gray. And so I would then have to tell the other player either yes, one of my 2 cards is red or gray, or I can say no, neither of my 2 cards is red or gray. Now I don't have to tell them which one it is. I don't have to tell them it's 1 or it's 2. I just have to answer yes, at least one of mine is, or no, it is not. Then, after that's done, we would pull all the demis off the board. We would pull all the servants off the board, reset the middle, and then we would flip up the next one, which would have us moving around all of these cards, these action tiles, like so. This one can be switched out for a new one, and would swap here to the middle, and then we would place, based on this, the new tiles right out onto the board, just like so. And then we would take a look at what the new rule is, demis on servant tokens, which in that case would be anybody on this one or on this one. You can see they are highlighted like that. And then you would simply go through each round like so. And the game comes with, and this is obviously a prototype, and the game's going to come with a pad of symbols like this. It's going to allow you to kind of make your guesses as you go. So if the other player had said yes, that they were one of the 2, which I believe was green or red, which I believe was gray or red, well then I could make my note and put, maybe they're that, maybe they're that one, and so on. And at the end of the game, I'm going to make my guess. I'm going to say, oh, you know what, I think they're this one, and they are this one. Well, I wouldn't say that because that's what I am, so I'll say they're blue. I think they're gray and blue, and they would do the same. And then, at the end of the game, we would do our scoring. So I'm going to come back to the demis position in 1 second, and then I would say, okay, well, did I guess correctly? So I guessed that they were gray and blue, and they told me that, you know what? Yes, I got both of those right, so that would earn me 3 points. Had I gotten one right, I get 0 points, and had I gotten both wrong, I would lose a point. Then I looked at how many God powers did I use. In my example, I said I used 2, so that would be -2. And now we come back and look at the demis position. So if you remember, I was pink and orange. And so pink is on 8, orange is on 4, and that means I'm going to get 4 points for that. Which means my total is 7 -2, so I have a total of 5. Now the only other thing to note is, if my score had wound up with both of my 2 demis on the exact same spot, then instead of a 0, I would have gotten 6. If I was over here, I would have gotten 9. And that's how this game works. You're going to play through 3 rounds, and at the end of the game, whoever has the most points is going to be the winner. And that's how this game works. So, with that said, what do I like about this game? I actually really enjoy this kind of relatively recent push to make larger games specifically for 2 players. I really do like that, but I think this one works particularly well in that this head-to-head puzzle game, back and forth, I think it is particularly well suited to a 2-player game. And then when you combine that with the speed of the game, I think it works even better. This is a very quick game. Even if you're spending a lot of time trying to think about all the different permutations of what can happen here and there, it's just not a long game. It's not going to take you more than 30 minutes, ever. And part of that, I think, is because of the game's relative simplicity. There's just not a lot that's going to happen. You're going to put one of your gods on one of the symbols, and it's going to do whatever the symbol says. Or you're going to put down a servant and you're going to do whatever the servant does. And because there's not so many of those and there's not that many things that you can do, it keeps the game moving. However, there's just enough things to do that you're constantly thinking about, okay, how can I make this work to my advantage? How can I play this here to either get what I need so I can get the most points at the end of the game, or to throw off my opponent who's trying to figure out what it is that I have. And I think that's really where the core interesting thing of the game lies. And then when you add to it at the end of every round, you're going to give out some bit of information. And it is really an interesting push and pull to try to decide, do I want to give something away about what I have and possibly give my opponent a point? Or do I want to avoid having to say yes to a thing, which still gives some information? It tells them, well, they're certainly not these things. And every single round, you have to think about that. And so I think that all works very, very well. I also think the scoring is quite fun. I like this idea of you're trying to have one of your demigods kind of fall in prestige and the other go really high so you can get that delta for high point scoring. But then you also have that ability to kind of shoot the moon. You're trying to get, well, if I can get both of these up to 10, I'm going to get 20 points, and you're going to win if you can do that. And that is just very clever, because it becomes obvious what you're doing as you are doing it if you're trying to get both of those onto the same space most often. And so I just think it is very clever. It's a very tight game, and it's a very mentally taxing game. And I say that in a good way. And the last thing I want to point out about what I like about this game is it's stunningly beautiful. It is a gorgeous, gorgeous production. There's a few things that are going to be changing. There's some little color issues with they have the wrong color on some of the meeples, and they're going to make the demarcations between the different point values on the board. They're going to fix that. But other than that, it's a gorgeous production. This is actually one of the prettiest prototypes I've ever gotten, and so that says a lot, because I've gotten a lot of really, really pretty prototypes, and I can only assume the final version is going to be even better looking. So what are my quibbles with the game? Well, the first thing is you have to really be into this kind of hidden information and trying to deduce what the other player has. It's not going to be game shattering if you don't figure it out. You lose 1 point if you don't guess if you guess neither of their things at the end of the game. So that's not huge, but you have to be in for that. And you have to be okay with the idea that you might, at the end of one of the rounds, give them all the information they need and you get nothing that is helpful to you. And so if you're not into that deduction bit, then you're not going to enjoy this game very much. And the only other thing that I'll say that might be a turnoff for somebody is it's kind of mean. Right? You are absolutely doing your best to move your demigods where you can, but you can't move them with every single action on every single turn. And so there's definitely times when you are absolutely going to be making a choice to purposely screw over the other player. And some people love that. Some people really don't like that. Mrs. Hungry Gamer hates that. In fact, in the playthrough that we did, it turned out, well, I won't tell you if it turned out well or not, but on one of the last turns of the game, I'm like, okay, I know, or I think I know, you'll have to see if I knew or I didn't know, that Don has these two demigods. If I do this play, he's going to go from getting a bunch of points to getting 1 point. And it was just a mean, mean choice for me to make. And we had a good time with it, but just understand, that might not be what you're looking for. But there you have it, folks. That is Scales of Fate from IB Games. I think for my time and my money, this might be my favorite IB game that I have played. Fractured Sky's up there, but this one might be it. I am really, really intrigued with this one. And that says a lot, because they put out a lot of really good, fun games. But there you have it, folks. That is Scales of Fate. As always, if I made any mistakes in the rules overview, please let me know in the comments with the timestamp so I can get that into the Klingon subtitles. If you found this video useful, please like, subscribe, share, maybe become a channel member. As always, thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.